My name is Tessa Langley. I'm 29 years old. And I didn't know a marriage could start dying in such a calm, domestic way. No screaming match, no slammed doors, no shattered plates, until my husband looked at me like I was an inconvenience in his life and said, "Until you fix that attitude, you're not touching our bed. Sleep on the couch." Not our couch. Not just for tonight. The couch. Like a penalty box. Like I was a misbehaving dog that needed to learn something. The thing is, he said it so evenly that for a second my brain tried to file it under normal couple conflict. The same way you convince yourself a weird smell in your house is just the heater kicking on. But the words didn't fade. They sat in the room like a locked door. Let me back up. My husband's name is Jordan Pierce. We've been together since college. 10 years total. Married for 4. Jordan has always been the kind of man people trust immediately. He's charming without being loud. Efficient. The guy who remembers your boss's name and sends a follow-up email before you even leave the meeting. He works as a project manager at a tech company. I'm a software engineer working remote, which means my office is the spare bedroom and my coworkers live inside my laptop. 2 years ago, we bought our house. 3-bedroom colonial. Finished basement. The kind of place you buy when you're telling yourselves, this is stability, this is the life we planned. The basement was mostly storage and my weight equipment in the corner. It wasn't glamorous, but it was ours. It felt like potential. I didn't realize Jordan's promotion would poison that feeling. It started around March. Jordan got bumped up to senior project manager, which came with a bigger salary, longer hours, and a kind of pressure that followed him home like a shadow. At first, I was genuinely happy for him. I was proud. I celebrated like a good partner does, ordered his favorite takeout, bought a bottle of wine, listened to him talk through his new responsibilities like it mattered as much to me as it did to him. But stress doesn't always look like stress. Sometimes it looks like criticism wearing business casual. Jordan started coming home exhausted and sharp-edged, and somehow everything I did became wrong. I did the dishes, but not the way he liked. I folded laundry, but not his method. I cooked dinner, but it wasn't what he was craving. And the worst part was how small he made me feel when he pointed it out, like I should be embarrassed for not knowing the right way to exist in our home. At first, I swallowed it. I told myself, new role, new stress. Don't take it personally. I picked up extra housework without being asked. I tried to give him space. I tried to be softer, quieter, easier. Like if I made myself smaller, there'd be less for him to trip over. But the more I adjusted, the more he expected. By mid-April, our conversations felt like walking through a room full of glass. Then came April 23rd. I remember the date because it was a Tuesday. And Tuesdays used to be our thing. Thai food, a show we were binging, laughing about the same dumb jokes like the world couldn't touch us inside those walls. That Tuesday, I'd had a brutal day. A major bug in production. 3 hours of emergency meetings. My inbox looked like it was on fire. I'd been staring at code so long my eyes felt gritty, like sand was trapped behind them. By the time Jordan came home at 8 p.m., I was on the couch with my laptop open, monitoring the fix we'd deployed. I heard the front door, his shoes, the familiar keys hitting the bowl. And instead of, hey, or how was your day, I got, did you take out the trash? No, hello. No kiss. Just the trash, like it was a test and he already expected me to fail. I blinked at him. Not yet. His jaw tightened. I asked you this morning. Jordan, I said carefully, because I could already feel the trap closing. I've been dealing with a work crisis all day. I'll do it after I finish checking this. It's literally one thing, he snapped. One thing. I looked at my laptop, then back at him. I said I'll do it. He stared at me like I'd insulted him. So your job is more important than helping around the house. That line, your job, hit in a way he didn't seem to notice. Like my work was a hobby, like my contributions were optional. I closed my laptop. The click of it felt louder than it should have. That's not what I said, I told him. I had an emergency. I can take the trash out right now. Jordan threw his hands up like I was performing for applause. Don't bother. I'll do it myself, like I do everything else. That's not fair, I said, and I could hear my voice tightening. I do plenty around here. He laughed. Actually laughed. Short and sharp, like I'd just told him the funniest joke. You do the bare minimum, he said, and act like you deserve a medal. Something inside me went cold. Jordan, I asked, what is going on with you? You've been like this for weeks. He took a step closer, eyes bright with that particular kind of anger that feels rehearsed. Maybe I'm tired of living with someone who has the attitude of a lazy teenager. Lazy? I repeated. I work full-time. I cook half the meals. I do my share. Your share? he echoed, like the words tasted bad. Then he dropped the real weapon, the one he'd been waiting to use. Tessa, I make more money than you now, he said. I work harder than you, and I still come home to a messy house and a wife who can't be bothered to take out the trash. That stung more than I wanted it to. I made good money, $95,000 a year, but his promotion had bumped him to $130,000, and the way he said it made it sound like I should bow. Like love had become a hierarchy. So that's what this is, I said quietly. You make more now, so I'm beneath you. That's not what I said. It's what you implied. We argued for another 20 minutes. It was ugly. It wasn't about trash anymore. It was about respect, about control, about the way his eyes seemed to search for a place to pin blame so he didn't have to feel powerless anywhere else. Finally, he said it. The sentence that turned our bedroom into a locked room. You know what? Jordan said, voice too calm, too careful. Until you fix that attitude, you're not touching our bed. Sleep on the couch. I just stared at him. You're kicking me out of our bedroom, I said, because saying it out loud made it sound as insane as it felt. I need space from you, he replied, and maybe sleeping on the couch will give you some perspective on how you contribute to this household. Perspective. Like this was a lesson. Like I was a child. And the strangest part? He looked almost confident. Like he expected me to crumble, to apologize, to beg my way back upstairs. I didn't. Fine, I said. Jordan blinked, like he hadn't rehearsed that version. Fine, I repeated, and I grabbed a pillow and walked to the couch before he could change the rules again. That first night was miserable. Our couch was nice. Expensive, statement piece, nice. But it wasn't made for sleeping. I woke up with a stiff neck and a back that felt like it had been twisted into a knot. Jordan came downstairs in the morning, saw me stretching out the pain, and didn't say a word. He just made his coffee like I was furniture and left for work. The second night was worse. The third night, something shifted. Not in him, in me. Because I realized he wasn't punishing me to fix our marriage. He was punishing me to prove he could. And that's when I started thinking about the basement. About the finished space we never used. About the quiet down there. About the way a person can survive anything if they just have room to breathe. I lay on the couch in the dark, listening to the faint sound of Jordan moving upstairs. Comfortable, alone, confident. And I thought, if he wants me out of our bed, fine. But I'm not going to destroy my body to feed his power trip. I didn't know what I was going to do yet. I only knew I wasn't going to beg. Not this time. By the fourth night, the couch felt less like a place to sleep and more like a message I was supposed to memorize. Every morning, my spine screamed when I sat up. Every night, I stared at the ceiling, listening to the quiet house like it was judging me. Jordan didn't soften. He didn't come downstairs with an apology. He didn't ask if my back hurt. He didn't say, hey, maybe this has gone too far. He treated the new arrangement like it was a normal household policy, like he'd installed a lock on our bedroom door and called it boundaries. The only time he spoke to me directly was in short, clipped exchanges that felt like office emails. Trash goes out tomorrow. Don't forget the grocery order. Did you schedule the plumber? Not, are you okay? Not, I miss you. Just tasks. And the more he acted like this was working, the more something ugly began to bloom in my chest. A realization. Jordan hadn't kicked me out of the bedroom because he needed space. He'd kicked me out because he expected me to panic. He expected me to beg to come back upstairs and promise to be easier again. He expected the couch to break me into compliance. I could see it in this way he watched me the first 2 mornings. This subtle, satisfied stillness in his face, like he was waiting for me to crack. But I didn't. Not because I was strong, because I was tired. Tired in a deeper way than exhaustion. Tired of the invisible scoreboard he kept in his head. Tired of the way his promotion had turned into a crown he wore even in our kitchen. By night 4, I stopped pretending the couch was temporary. I went downstairs. The basement had always been there, but in my mind, it lived under the label later. Later we'll turn it into a movie room. Later we'll make it cozy. Later we'll stop using it as the place we throw boxes and unresolved projects. But that night, I turned on the basement lights and really looked. The previous owners had finished it properly. Drywall, carpeting, recessed lighting, its own bathroom tucked behind a door. The space was huge, easily 600 square feet. It wasn't a basement. It was a hidden floor of the house we'd been ignoring. I walked slowly, stepping over old storage bins marked holiday and kitchen, past my dumbbells and the treadmill Jordan had insisted we buy and never touched. And as I stood in the center of that empty open space, a thought came to me with strange clarity. If Jordan wants me out of our bed, fine. But he doesn't get to decide I sleep in pain. The next day at work, I couldn't focus. Not because of code, for once. Because I kept imagining the basement transformed. Not in a petty man cave way. Jordan would have called it childish, of course. But in a practical way. A real bed. A door I could close. A place where I could breathe without feeling like someone was evaluating my worth as a wife. That night, I started researching mattresses. Not casually. Not maybe someday. I researched the way people research escape routes. I made a list. I compared reviews. I watched videos of strangers bouncing on foam and explaining coil density like it mattered more than politics. Then I checked my calendar. Friday, my dental appointment got canceled. A surprise 3-day weekend. Perfect timing. Saturday morning, Jordan announced he was meeting some people from work and then going to a yoga class and brunch. His new routine since the promotion. He said it the way he said everything now, like he was informing me, not involving me. I nodded like I didn't care. The moment his car backed out of the driveway, something inside me clicked into motion. I didn't hesitate. If I hesitated, guilt would catch me. I grabbed my keys and went straight out the door. First stop, IKEA. I walked in with purpose like a woman assembling a secret identity. Bed frame, nightstands, a dresser. Simple, clean lines. Stuff Jordan wouldn't veto because he wasn't even going to be asked. Then Bed Bath & Beyond for sheets, pillows, a thick comforter. Things I'd always wanted, but we'd compromised on because Jordan liked minimal. Minimal, I realized, meant my preferences shrink so his don't have to. Then electronics. A 65-inch TV, a wall mount, a soundbar, a cheap little mini fridge that could hold sparkling water and leftovers and freedom. I stopped at a home goods store for decor too, because I wasn't just building a room. I was building a boundary. I picked art. Jordan would have rolled his eyes at. A moody black and white city photograph, a colorful abstract print that looked like paint exploding, a framed map of Chicago because I loved the city skyline and he'd always said it looked busy. Busy? What he meant was, too much, like you. By the time I pulled into the driveway with a car full of boxes, my heart was hammering. I half expected Jordan to be standing in the kitchen window, like a security camera. He wasn't. The house was quiet. I dragged everything down to the basement and got to work. I moved all the storage boxes to one side, stacking them neatly like they finally had to behave. I reorganized my gym equipment into one clean corner. Then I cleared out a wide-open section and measured. When I laid the king-size mattress down, yes, king-sized, the exact thing Jordan had called too much when we bought the house, I almost laughed. It looked enormous in the basement, like a throne, like a statement. You don't get to banish me and still control what comfort I'm allowed to have. I built the frame, sweating, cursing under my breath. I mounted the TV. I set up my PlayStation 5, the one I'd barely used because Jordan always made me feel silly about it, like gaming was an immature hobby he tolerated. I plugged in a little coffee maker. I put a small bookshelf against the wall and filled it with my novels, my old college notebooks, the things that were mine before I became Jordan's wife. By Sunday night, it was real. A legitimate bedroom, not a basement corner with a mattress on the floor. A space with lighting, softness, warmth. A space that didn't feel like punishment. I cleaned up obsessively, took every box, every plastic wrap, every receipt, and shoved it into my trunk. I drove it all to the dump because the last thing I needed was Jordan finding packaging and sniffing around like a bloodhound for control. When he got home Sunday evening, he barely noticed. He was too wrapped up in his own world, his own stress, his own need to feel important. He asked, "What have you been doing all weekend?" "Organizing the basement," I said calmly. Jordan nodded like it didn't matter, like nothing I did mattered unless it inconvenienced him. That night, I went to the couch as usual because I wasn't ready to reveal it yet. Not until it was perfect. Not until it was mine. Monday night, I made a quiet dinner, cleaned the kitchen, and waited. Jordan went upstairs without looking at me. The moment I heard our bedroom door close, I picked up my pillow and walked downstairs. My hands were trembling, not from fear, but from adrenaline, like I was about to commit a crime. Then I opened the basement door, stepped into my new room, and shut it behind me. The air down there was cooler. The lights were softer. The bed looked so inviting it almost hurt. I climbed in, and for the first time in a week, my body unclenched. The mattress cradled me in a way the couch never could. My spine sighed. My shoulders dropped. My mind, usually racing, went quiet. I stared up at the ceiling and felt something that scared me. Relief. Not just physical relief. Emotional relief. Because down here, Jordan couldn't glare at me. He couldn't sigh dramatically if I breathed wrong. He couldn't punish me with silence and expect me to fill it with apologies. Down here, there was just me. And the terrifying truth was, I slept like a baby. Tuesday morning, I woke up rested. Actually rested. My back didn't hurt, my neck wasn't stiff, my brain felt clear. I went upstairs, poured coffee, and Jordan looked at me like he was trying to calculate something. "You're in a good mood," he said cautiously. "Couch finally comfortable?" he added, almost sarcastic. I took a slow sip of coffee. Not quite. He frowned, but he didn't ask more. And that became the new routine. For the next 3 weeks, I lived in a quiet split-screen marriage. I came home from work, made myself dinner or ordered in, and disappeared to the basement. I worked out. I played games. I watched movies. I slept in the best bed I'd ever owned. Jordan stayed upstairs. We barely spoke. In the mornings, we exchanged 5 words at most, like coworkers passing in a hallway. And if Jordan thought his punishment was hurting me, he was wrong. I wasn't falling apart. I was thriving. But the more comfortable I became down there, the more I understood something darker. Jordan didn't miss me. He missed the version of me who was easy to control. And that meant discovery wasn't just inevitable, it was going to be explosive. Because one day, one mistake, one moment, he was going to realize I'd built a life without his permission. And men like Jordan, they don't handle that quietly. The discovery happened on a Wednesday. Almost exactly a month after the night, Jordan banished me to the couch and told himself it was for my own good. I remember the day because nothing about it felt dramatic at first. Work was quiet. Dinner was leftovers. The house felt still in that heavy, suspended way, like it was holding its breath. I was downstairs in the basement, stretched out on my bed with my headphones on, controller in hand, deep into a game that required just enough focus to drown out the rest of my thoughts. I didn't hear Jordan come down the stairs. I only noticed him when his reflection flickered in the dark screen of the TV. I paused the game and pulled off my headphones. He was standing there, frozen. "What is this?" he asked. His voice wasn't loud. It was worse. It was disoriented, like the ground had shifted under his feet and he hadn't recalibrated yet. I sat up slowly. "My bedroom." Jordan blinked. Once, twice. "You built a bedroom in the basement?" "Yes." His eyes darted around the room like he was inventorying damage. The mounted TV, the mini fridge humming quietly in the corner, the bookshelf, the art on the walls, the neatly organized gym equipment pushed aside to make space. Then his gaze landed on the bed. A long beat passed. "Is that a king-sized bed?" he asked. "Yep." He took a step closer like he didn't believe it was real. Is that a Sleep Number mattress?" I nodded. "It's incredible." He stared at me like I'd committed a crime in front of him. "You bought a king-size Sleep Number bed." "I did." "With what money?" "With my money," I said calmly, "from my account." Jordan's jaw tightened. "We have a bed upstairs." "We do," I agreed. "The one you told me I wasn't allowed to touch." "I didn't ban you," he snapped. "I said you needed to fix your attitude." "Right," I said. "And I decided my attitude was fine, so I made other arrangements." He let out a sharp laugh, pacing now. "You've been sleeping down here for a month." "Almost a month." "And you didn't think to mention this?" "I told you I was organizing the basement." "That's not the same thing and you know it." I shrugged. "You didn't ask." Jordan stopped pacing and looked at me fully, really seeing me for the first time in weeks. "You seem comfortable," he said. "I am." That word hit him harder than I expected. "How much did all this cost?" he asked. I didn't hesitate. "About $4,500. His face flushed. "You spent $4,000 without talking to me?" "Yes." "We're married," he said sharply. "We discuss large purchases." "Like we discussed you kicking me out of our bedroom?" I asked. "Like we discussed changing the entire dynamic of our marriage?" "That's different." "How?" He opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. "That was about your behavior. And this," I said, gesturing around the room, "was about my spine and my sanity." Jordan ran a hand through his hair, frustration radiating off him. "This is ridiculous. You're being childish." "I'm being practical," I replied. "You wanted me out of the bedroom. I'm out. I'm just not willing to suffer for it." "The point," he snapped, "was that you needed to think about how you treat me." "I did think about it," I said quietly. "A lot. And I realized my behavior wasn't the problem." His eyes hardened. "Oh, so I'm the problem now?" "You made yourself the problem," I said, my voice steady. "When you decided withholding affection and banishing me from our bed was an appropriate response to me being tired from work one night." "That's not what happened." "That's exactly what happened." I stood up then, meeting him eye to eye. "I had one rough day. One. I didn't take the trash out immediately, and you used that as an excuse to treat me like I was lazy, ungrateful, and disposable. Even though I work full-time. Even though I cook, clean, and contribute to this house. Equally, he scoffed, I make more money. There it was. Again. You think because you got a promotion, I said, you're somehow superior now, that I should be grateful you even tolerate me. That's not... You've been treating me like garbage for 2 months, I interrupted. Critical, dismissive, mean. And the moment I stopped shrinking for you, you tried to put me in my place. Jordan stared at me, stunned. And now, I continued, you're angry because your punishment didn't work. Silence stretched between us. Finally, he asked, quieter now. So what? You're just going to live in the basement? I looked around my room, the soft light, the quiet, the comfort. For now, I said. Yeah, seems like it's working pretty well for me. He shook his head. This is not how marriages work. Neither is punishment, I replied. Neither is contempt. But here we are. Jordan went back upstairs without another word. I heard him pacing for a while, cabinets opening and closing, footsteps heavy with agitation. Then it went quiet. The next morning, he was waiting for me in the kitchen. We need to talk, he said. Okay, this has gotten out of hand. I agree. You can't just live in the basement. Why not? Because we're married, he said. Married people share a bedroom. Married people also respect each other, I said. They don't use intimacy as leverage or treat their partner like hired help. He sat down at the table then, and something shifted. For the first time in weeks, he didn't look angry. He looked small. I didn't mean for it to get like this, he said. I poured myself coffee and leaned against the counter. Then what did you mean? He sighed. Work has been overwhelming. I took it out on you, but it felt like you weren't helping. You were always on your laptop, always busy. I work too, Jordan, I said. I have deadlines, emergencies, responsibilities. I know, he said quickly. I know that now. But it felt like you didn't care about what I was dealing with because you never talked about it. I stopped talking because every time I did, you criticized me. He went quiet. Then, finally, you're right, I've been awful. I waited. I'm sorry, he said. The apology landed softly, and too late. I hear you, I said. But that doesn't fix what's broken. So, you're staying in the basement? He asked. Yes. His head snapped up. You're thinking about leaving? I'm thinking about whether I want to stay in a marriage where the moment things get stressful, I become the target. He swallowed hard. I love you. I know, I said, but I don't recognize the person you've been lately. Tears filled his eyes, and I felt bad. But I also felt something else. Relief. Because for the first time since this started, I wasn't the one begging to be chosen. 6 weeks have passed since the night Jordan stood at the bottom of the basement stairs and realized he'd lost control of the story he thought he was writing. Not control of me, though I think that was part of it. Control of the marriage as something that bent automatically to his stress, his ego, his expectations. We're in marriage counseling now, twice a week, every Tuesday and Thursday evening. The first session was brutal. Jordan sat rigid in his chair, arms crossed, answering questions like he was in a performance review. I sat with my hands folded in my lap, heart pounding, waiting for the therapist to tell me which one of us was right. She didn't. Instead, she asked us to describe how conflict usually ended between us. Jordan went first. When we fight, he said carefully, I feel like Tessa shuts down, like she doesn't want to engage. The therapist nodded and turned to me. What happens on your end? I took a breath. When we fight, I feel like engagement means losing, so I stop. That was the first moment Jordan looked at me differently. Not defensively, curiously, as if he'd never considered that silence wasn't apathy, but self-protection. The therapist didn't let him off the hook. She used words like punitive behavior, withholding intimacy, and power imbalance. Jordan flinched when she said them. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt tired. She suggested something that surprised both of us, maintaining separate sleeping spaces while we worked through things. Not as a punishment, she clarified, as a boundary. Jordan hated that word. Boundary. It sounded too much like something he couldn't override. But after arguing, once, then catching himself, he agreed. Reluctantly. The basement bedroom stayed, and something strange happened. Without the constant, unspoken expectation of intimacy, our conversations got clearer. We talked more. Not every day, not effortlessly. But honestly, we started having dinner together again a few times a week. No phones, no work emails, just food and conversation like we were relearning each other's language. Jordan began apologizing in real time. Not the big dramatic apologies, but the smaller ones that mattered more. Hey, I'm being snippy. That's not fair. I'm stressed, but that's not on you. I'm sorry. Let me try that again. He started individual therapy too. Apparently, a lot of his control issues traced back to childhood. being the responsible one, the one who held everything together, the one who learned early that if he didn't manage everything, it would fall apart. I listened. I didn't rush to forgive, because understanding someone's damage doesn't obligate you to accept their behavior. The weirdest part? Our relationship improved without forced closeness. We went on a date last Saturday. Nothing fancy, just dinner and a walk downtown, but it felt lighter, like the pressure had been turned down. Jordan reached for my hand halfway through the walk. I let him, not because I had to, because I wanted to. I still sleep in the basement. And regardless of what happens between us, that isn't changing. The basement bedroom taught me something I didn't know I needed to learn at 29 though. I need space. Not distance. Space. A place that's mine. A retreat I don't have to earn by being agreeable or quiet or low maintenance. Jordan knows this now. Whether he fully understands it, time will tell. Some people ask if separate bedrooms are sustainable long-term. Honestly, I don't know. Our therapist says it's fine as a temporary measure. Maybe we'll move back upstairs together. Maybe we'll become one of those couples who sleep separately and it works. I'm taking it 1 week at a time. One conversation at a time. One boundary at a time. What I do know is this. The basement didn't end my marriage. It saved my clarity. And even if we eventually share the upstairs bedroom again, I'm keeping my space. Because love without respect is just another kind of control. And I've already slept on that couch long enough.